It's possible for men to be feminists.
Yes.
It's very possible for men to be feminists. We are creating a society that's no longer regulated by the norms of the patriarchal system. We're no longer speaking through the patriarchal system. We are creating our own system, a system of equality and equity. So I believe that's actually very important, and grassroots advocacy is needed for that kind of thing to happen. Yes.
But I have noticed that many times that when we have men in women issues, I do hope they recognize the place that they hold and they do not try to take over.
Take over, yes.
I recognize that a lot. It's like a woman with a bus tire. You can have all your equipment down, but you have men come and be like, let me help you. I appreciate it. But many times you don't even have to say a word. They feel like you don't know
how to do it.
You don't know how to do
Yes.
it. So as much as I enjoy the collaboration of feminist men, I would encourage them to understand that many times in our space, we also would like autonomy.
That's what she said. Hi, my name is Emanuela Osezehi Achioya. I am a lawyer and an advocate for SDGs 5 and 16, which are gender equality and justice, peace, and strong institutions. So before now, I've been having a conversation with Z and Tamara about global leadership, women in global leadership, and also the grassroots impact of women leadership. And it has been an exciting yet controversial conversation. But we cannot have that conversation without someone who has already been in those shoes, someone who have explored those grounds and probably had some stories to tell about it. So with me, I have an amazing woman, Ayomide, and she's going to tell us more about herself. Welcome, Ayomide.
Thank you so much. My name is Ayomide Solanke. I write comic books. I advocate for women and girls. I also am, like Emanuela has said, a global leader on feminist issues. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us, for being here. And my story actually wasn't personal. It actually was from seeing the injustice of others. There was a particular woman I had I don't know if I should call it fortune or misfortune to experience her story. She owed a debt to a microfinance company and they had her arrested. And she was in prison for days and she was sexually assaulted by the police officers. And by the time her sister came to get her released, she was begging police officers to release her. And the police officer said they were just doing their job. And I, with a legal background, know that the police do not have the right to arrest someone for just owing a debt or things like that. So that is my story. And I feel it's also rooted in Nigeria's current realities, which is quite painful, to be honest. But we want to know, what is your story? Why did you start talking about what you talk about? And why do your story revolve around, your activism revolve around child marriage, school shooting, and things like that? I want to hear from you.
I think that, first of all, I acknowledge the cocoon I have lived in before now. If you live in rural, you live in urban Nigeria, like in Lagos, for instance, in some of the major cities, you can't be very sheltered.
Yes.
What happens from the rest of the country. I thankfully have been able to come out of that cocoon early. In 2019, I had read that there was child marriage, not even a child marriage. It was like a child debt system where children were given out as child brides in exchange for loans, financial loans. And I remember it shocking me. Like every other thing that shocks me in this country, the fact that children were in school and they were kidnapped from schools and there was terrorist attacks on schools, like every other thing that happens in a country, from someone from a cocooned or sheltered background, I was shocked by that and I decided to write about it. I was fortunate enough to visit these communities, urbanly cool, and it was the stories were about how girls had been given out as brides for as little as 30K, 80K.
Wow.
And the parent had and sometimes collected his loans to be able to fund medical bills, life expectancies, things you would expect to. So this was predatory by the community, and prior to my getting there, it had been outlawed. by the government, but many times that's something that's been outlawed does not mean that
it ceases to exist. Yeah,
it ceases to exist. And the fact that many times there is no repercussion for doing it in spite of being outlawed. So my first comic book was on the stories of 4 young girls. They are minors, so I used synonyms for their names, and they were between the ages of 11 to 16. They had found a religious organization that had been responsible for paying some of their debts, freeing some of them had run away. And I salute the resilience of these girls, being able to decide that, you know what, I have seen this life and I don't want it for myself.
yeah,
And it was the resilience I spoke about in my stories, Heroes of Hope. I explored how these girls had by their own self charted their futures and decided that they were not going to live those lives anymore. But they are representative of a much larger group. A lot of girls are still stuck in that system, unfortunately, and we need more than activism at this point. We need an outright prosecution of people that are still exploring these methods, because it is very predatory. It takes on the lack of finances by these families, the fact that we are a globally sold economy, which really in a very poor economic state right now, and it's not getting any better. And more predatory acts will continue if we do not really enforce on people that practice them, that they shouldn't, and we have to be more firm in what we do when we do that. So that was my first story, and my other stories I've explored school kidnapping. I had interviewed a student of Federal Government College, Buniyadi, I think around 20 years ago, to this time, there was a school kidnapping that many of the boys had their lives taken from them by terrorists, and he was a survivor. He still suffers from the emotional trauma of that. I wanted people to not get used to the fact that these things happen, because we can become very desensitized if we continually hear about a school kidnapping, if we continually hear that a terrorist attack has happened. It happened last week. Some people
it didn't make it to the news.
It didn't make it to the news. It might even make it to the news. You might no longer pay attention.
Yeah.
It might become a norm. And it's unfortunate, but we should never get to that place where we are desensitized about the lives of others. So my books continually put in your face what we face, what we experience, what the rest of Nigeria experiences. And it puts in people's face constantly what they should do. We can't be concerned about ourselves alone. We cannot live for ourselves alone.
Exactly.
The goal of activism eventually is to see beyond you and your needs, and to recognize there's someone that needs your voice, someone whose voice will never be heard if you do not contribute to it. So I feel like as leaders, that's the primary thing, to be able to take on the causes of others, to be able to project for the people whose voices will never be heard, and to be a voice, to be a face that people can recognize for a cause. That's why it's important to me. I think the essence is for them to be aware of what obtains away from major cities in Nigeria, and also we want to be able to build thought leaders on time. We want them to be able to see what they can do and how they can influence it. As much as I say young adults, also more adult people pick up comic books. Okay. If you're a child at heart like me,
I still read comic books.
If you're a child that had to pick up a comic book, you read it, you say, what's this about? What's the story? Who are these people? How can I help? What can I do?
And when you relate to it, it becomes more powerful.
Yeah. And then you're able to, in your own way, do it the best you can. Yeah. I also run Ireti Hub. Ireti Hub is a community educational platform like yours.
Okay.
We explore sexual reproductive health and rights information for young adults. We do school entrepreneurship training for young out of school students. So people that in that brief, people in the West call it a gap year, before, after school, and then in the university, we're able to explore giving them entrepreneurship training so that they find some use, and also be able to provide for themselves.
It shows that you have gone so far in advocating for what you truly believe in, but that doesn't mean that that's going to be accepted in the society, in the community. Female leaders are actually looked down upon, if we're being honest, especially in the African, or more specifically Nigerian society. So how do you see, what do you think the female leader, how do you think she's viewed in society, especially in light of the Nigerian society?
I believe that I've never considered my leadership as something that I want other people to give me an opinion on.
Or permission.
Or permission.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's the word. I've never needed permission or approval in society to be able to do what I do. And it's important everyone, every girl, every woman knows this, that you do not need the approval of anyone to be able to speak your cause and do your thing. And it's important because in a patriarchal society like this, you rightly mentioned that women are not given the due stand, the due value they should be given in society, but it shouldn't stop you from doing what you want to do.
Yeah.
So I believe as a leader, a female leader, first of all, you prioritize yourself. At the core of everything you do, you speak loudest even when you do not speak. The value you give upon yourself, the way you speak in society, how you relate to people is important. So there's a need to develop a core of your self-value system for yourself, to understand that I would never take this from anybody. I would never do this, I would never accept this, and I would never be the person that also dishes what I cannot receive.
Word.
So it is important that we build that core first, and then every other thing will begin to take place. I feel like I am the way I am because of my mother. My mother was the president of workers' union in an organization in the early 70s. It wasn't something that was a norm. It was rare. So I learned from a strong woman. So I never valued in any way or shape or form the value of any other person. When I wanted something, I went for it. I never considered being a woman as a disadvantage. It was never a thing for me. And that's how I was raised. That's what helped my core. For women that this might not be their reality, I feel like it's important that you first and foremost build a core for yourself. Some of us come from very deeply misogynistic homes or patriarchal, where gender norms are placed for you. It is important that you get a lot of pushback when you try to do things away from the norm, but it shouldn't stop you from ensuring that you develop a core value develop core system for yourself. Understand that I want to pursue this course, and it's important that many times we might not found organizations. We might just walk into existing systems, but our value is still going to be felt wherever we are, whether we found or not, whether we are part of a system or not. We are still going to identify as people that make a change. At the end of it, leadership is influence, being able to influence a thought pattern, influence people, influence policy. That's the more important thing. I think that's the more important thing about being a leader. That's why I think global leadership should revolve around.
So you've spoken about your work with your organization and the story behind it. But now I want to know, what kind of impact have you seen your comics make, especially in your immediate community? You talked about the victim of the shooting and school kidnapping.
I believe the most important impact is changing policy. But we are not there yet. So what we have now is a lot of private organizations offering emotional, post-financial, and also educational support for students that have been affected by school kidnappings. For instance, in the child marriage sector, we've had more activism there, such that the practice is almost outdated. Thankfully, I'm not the only activist that has ventured in that area. So I think the pressure on the community has helped them understand why they have to. They have to end such backward and prehistoric practices. So because many times when you challenge culture, you do not just challenge the living, you also challenge the dead. And the dead is a more stubborn demographic. So I think, yes, I would love to see more policy change. But I'm grateful for the private organizations that have been able to provide educational, financial, and also emotional support. So there has been counseling sessions for students that have gone through some of that. There's also been financial support, like I've mentioned, for students that to help them further. Because in the case of the student I spoke to after the school kidnapping, he could not find a reason to go back to school. He said he had been traumatized by it and did not feel like his school environment will ever be safe. And that's one of our biggest challenges. If we get children out of school in that way, they might never go back. So I believe that has been very important for me. In driving policy challenges, I have been able to explore showing comics and making presentations before our government bodies, ensuring that they see the need to have safer schools. Safer schools are very important because a lot of students do not ordinary. We already have a large out of school student population, and we don't want to add to that. So I believe it's a combined effort. I'm encouraging as many of us as possible. There's a lot of signatory, make school safer, ensure that government funds education. Human capital investment is never a waste. Investing in education, investing in our health, investing in our emotional well-being is never a waste. So we must ensure that we pressure governments to ensure that the money that you spend in building buildings could do better if you use it to just fund proper education, safer schools, ensure that students are in school, that they are fed in school, and that ensure that the education that they get is effective. Because we do not want ineffective education. We do not want education that cannot compete outside of our borders. So those are some of the impacts I have seen.
Yes, that's actually very good because it all begins with policy.
Yes.
Right? It all begins with policy. People tend to be all in their head. You hear people talking about child marriage, advocating for things like that, but they don't tend to envision how the future could be without all these things playing out in our society. So just kind of paint a picture of how the future would be like if we got rid of child marriage, if we completely got rid of school kidnapping and things like that. What future are we seeing here?
Thank you so much. It's a future where our women are empowered. Our women are safe. Our women are educated. Women hold up the other half of the sky. It's not just a myth. We contribute to a large demographic in this country. So why shouldn't we be given the privilege, not even a privilege, why shouldn't we be given the support to ensure that this demographic doesn't go to waste? When you educate a girl, you do not just educate one person, you educate the entire lineage. So why not just make investment in this demographic that will ensure that you have good output, you have good returns. An investment in women has good returns because you don't just affect her alone, you affect the children she has. If she does have children, you affect the rest of the family. She's able to financially provide for herself. She's not a burden to anyone that is, if she was in, say, a child marriage. She has many child brides and many, unfortunately, a lot of teenagers whose education has been stunted by unplanned pregnancies. They do not see a future outside of raising these children. They do not think of going back to school in the immediate. They just want to provide for that child, and it sets them back because then they do not see how they can contribute to society. Ambition is truncated, and it's problematic if we do not address it. So a future that prioritizes women is a future that ensures that this country is not in the lower parts of every demographic. Our country currently has poor rates for maternal mortality. Poor rates of maternal mortality, poor rates of education. All of this could be rolled back. We could actually be the giants of Africa. Because it's not by mouth.
It's not by mouth.
It's not by mouth. We can actually look to doing that.
Yeah.
So some of the things that my comic books have not covered but are important to society are also femicide. We have a high femicide issue in this country. We have intimate partner violence in this issue. We have domestic abuse. We can never normalize domestic abuse. There's nothing like it's between the husband and wife. No. Because we have children looking at, many times, and in many cases, children are looking at what is being done. And unfortunately,
it becomes a repeated cycle.
It becomes a pattern. We cannot continue patterns that are not healthy and truncate our destinies, our collective destinies. Why should we have a child beater in the first, second, third generation, a wife beater, my apologies, first, second, third generation? They live for emotionally scarred children, emotionally scarred families, children that do not necessarily have, see how partnership in that form is meaningful. So I think, we could look to boasting as being the giants of Africa in every way and form.
Yes, I agree with that. I actually look forward to the day or to the time when we actually return back to that prestigious position, because we have actually dropped significantly. So now you have spoken about the fact that you are passionate about grassroots advocacy and leadership, but you have also been a global leader. We've spoken on platforms global platforms, and you've also addressed the issues you're passionate about. So now I want to know if you see yourself developing more in the global space, or you feel you're more effective here at home in Nigeria, pursuing the same dreams and your story.
I think it is important to understand that being seen in Africa is enough. Many of us want to be able to travel out, to be able to speak on this platform. It's important, but the work you do here is enough. And I say this to say that many times a lot of leaders do not feel validated because they do not get platforms outside of.
That's true.
But that's not the truth. Africa is not, or the world is not just the West. The world is also Africa.
That's also Africa.
We're also included in the scheme of things. So speaking here, doing your work here is important. Yes, as humans, we require external validations from time to time, but you must understand that what you do here, whether anybody sees outside of here, is enough.
Yeah.
And you're doing what you can, provided you are doing what you can, and you're doing all you can. So I feel like we must eliminate the need for external validation from the West and the rest of the world at all times. We must ensure that I am here, I'm doing the work I do. Many people outside of here might not see it. Nobody outside of my community might have heard of me, but what I do is just enough. And I think that's it. And in addressing global grassroots leadership, I was speaking earlier about the fact that I have explored pre-colonial history, pre-colonial treatment of women, pre-colonial treatment societies. How did we used to relate before our amalgamation prior to 1914? What were we? How were we as a people?
African people.
Before we were given this contraption called Nigeria? And you must understand that if we never address our past, we might never move forward into our future. Why are we here? Nigeria is a very diverse in every way. We are so diverse. We have languages dying out because nobody is speaking them. We are so diverse. From one community to the other, they might not speak the same language.
Yes.
So our common or shared language might be Pidgin English.
I think that's the only universal language.
Pidgin English is more. I believe Pidgin is
more universal.
More universal than English. So I have seen that before now we had more representation in governance. People had a say in how they were being governed. It wasn't a voting system per se, but it was a leadership system. So each community had members of each family represented in its governing council. So nobody felt left out.
Yeah.
The issues of tribalism and exclusion from government happens because people do not feel like they are being represented enough. People do not think that they have a say in governance. I don't know, for instance, if I have a say in the budget for, say, 2 years from now or next year. And it is important that we explore more people-led leadership. Not one person representing all of us. Our voices must matter. We must have political leaders that listen. We must have more town hall communication, not for election purposes. People must say what they feel they need in their community, how they feel they can better their community, and that must be taken back down to the local governments, the state governments, or the federal government, in any case it may be. People-led leadership. And many times, it's not a myth, it's a fact that women in leadership in Nigeria is less than 4%.
Yes, it's really low.
It's really low. But as much as I advocate for more women in leadership, I would encourage more feminist leadership. That a woman is in leadership does not mean that she cares about other
women. Yes.
And we make the mistake of we want women in leadership. We need feminist leadership. We need women that advocate for equality, inclusion for all. Nobody is excluded. Women cannot be excluded from the scheme of things. In this country, we are not 40% of the population. We are 50% or more.
Yes.
So why shouldn't our voices count? Why should women leadership be placed to just the Minister of Women Affairs? We are more than women affairs. So we must look to more feminist leadership. When we push women forward for positions, we shouldn't have other women trying to push them down.
And that was what happens in Nigeria. A lot of women pull other women down.
We thank God for our generation. Feminist Coalition, successfully led the NSAS event. And you can see pushback from that movement. Immediately after that, we had people requiring accountability and requesting that they must be accountable for funds. And this is not something we ask public leaders. That we pay taxes to. So I thank God for the resilience of Femco movement. It shows that women can actually do things. One thing about Nigerian women is that we achieve. That's it. If you put us there, we do it. So we must encourage feminist leadership in this country. You see women that are knowledgeable, that have something to offer. You must encourage them to put in for a position. You must encourage that they be nominated for something. In this country, political leadership is seen as a reward system. It shouldn't be. You should not be rewarded because you are successful in putting the state's governor or putting the federal government. I know that we are getting to a place where we have more intelligent leadership. I know we are getting there. I know we are not in the same place we were
a few years
ago. No, I know. I know that the collaboration post NSAS has been beautiful. The pushback against incel culture in everywhere form has been beautiful to watch. The pushback against patriarchal norms has been beautiful to watch. So I am not, like I mentioned, I really do not think that we need approval for things. We just have to get for it.
Yes, we just have to be there.
We have to be present. Another election period happens in 2027. We have to begin to prepare from now.
Yes.
You see the opposition leaders and the current ruling party already doing back and forth.
Yes.
Prepare ourselves.
Exactly.
So that when it's time, we have something to offer. We have we have people to put in positions of power because we must have better and equitable leadership. I remember seeing a poster in the last concluded. There were several kinds of posters, but the most interesting one was 2 male candidates, and they said for gender equity and inclusion. I was like, do they understand? It's a buzzword for some people.
Yeah.
It's a buzzword. To be able to say gender equity, inclusion, it is not. Gender equity means that there is representatives from all genders, representatives from all minorities. All people are represented in leadership, not one demographic, not one religious party, not one religious, not one gender, not one tribe. Everybody has equal. If we call ourselves a diverse country, we must ensure that everybody is well represented.
Exactly.
We cannot afford to exclude people. Otherwise, I do not see a future for us. I do not see a future if we continue to exclude people from conversations that they should be a part of.
That's true.
So that's what I think.
Yes, that's actually very, very true. And I think another eye-opener for us as Nigerians was the recent issue that with the Senate, with Senator Natasha. Yes, I think that was another eye-opener to the fact that women that are in that position are actually going through a lot and they need to be supported by fellow women. And also, it's possible for men to be feminists.
Yes.
It's very possible for men to be feminists. And I was actually surprised. Honestly, I was surprised when I saw some men canvassing for Senator Natasha. And I was like, yeah, things like this needs to be seen more often. Women also need to stand up to speak up for her because that way we are creating a society that's no longer regulated by the norms of the patriarchal system. We're no longer speaking through the patriarchal system. We are creating our own system, a system of equality and equity. So I believe that's actually very important, and grassroots advocacy is needed for that kind of thing to happen. Yes. So I'm a big fan of grassroots advocacy.
Yeah.
I believe that's very important because the people that are most affected by these things are the grassroots.
Yes,
they are the grassroots. They are the ones that can speak up better because they know how it's, as I said in Nigeria, they pay them for body. Yeah. They know how it is hurting them. So I think that's very important.
To speak to men being feminists, like I would quote Chimamanda and say we should all be feminists. But I have noticed that many times that when we have men in women issues, I do hope they recognize the place that they hold and they do not try to take over.
Take over, yes.
I recognize that a lot. So they feel like it's like a woman with a bus tire. You can have all your equipments down, but you have men come and be like, let me help you. I appreciate it. But many times you don't even have to see a word. They feel like you don't know
how to do it.
You don't know how to do
Yes.
it. So as much as I enjoy the collaboration of feminist men, I would encourage them to understand that many times in our space, we also would like autonomy. Men can, in some unintentionally or sometimes, I don't know, I honestly don't know. But I encourage them to understand that autonomy is important. We being responsible for our space is important.
It's important.
So I encourage men feminists. I have many of them as friends. I'm blessed. I'm blessed to always be able to put something on my status or put something on Twitter and have people say yes, 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 and have it retweeted is important. But I encourage men to understand that they should join our bandwagon.
Yeah.
There is nothing in incel culture for anybody. It just alienates you further and further.
Yes.
From women.
Yes, that's true. Earlier on you were talking about the pre-colonial era and culture and things like that. But we know that the Nigerian I call them the SCRG expectations, societal, cultural, religious, and generational expectations, right? Nigeria has a bulk of that. Like we have so many like you said, diverse cultures and things like that. And they have these expectations of women. Women are to be submissive. Women are to be quiet and supportive of their husband. Oh, when your husband is speaking, when your husband is the leader at home, so so you cannot go outside and go and become loud and everything. You are embarrassing your husband and things like that. So don't you think that clashes with the idea of a woman in leadership? Like, don't you think it clashes with the boldness that leadership requires here in Nigeria? Is that not going to stunt the growth of female leadership in Nigeria?
Thankfully, we have examples from pre-colonial Ohafia.
Okay.
They are a matrilineal society. Women actually have more social standing. Ohafia is in present-day Nigeria. Imo State, I guess.
Imo State, okay.
They were a matrilineal. But I remember Professor Sylvia mentioned once that is a matrilineal society is not necessarily a matriarchal society. So meaning that inheritance being passed from women to their children instead of men to their children doesn't mean that society eventually values women. But Ohafia stands out in being that matrilineal and patriarchal. Women are given more superiority, more importance than their men. So you couldn't have told pre-colonial Ohafia women that listen to your husband. And every religion as it stands, that is major in Nigeria, is very patriarchal.
Yes.
It's very patriarchal. So I'm very grateful I'm not burdened by the problems of marriage. But I would say that we have to chart our own course. We have to chart our course. Your silence is someone says the men that are benefiting. I don't know where I've heard that quote. So if you do be the submissive, quiet, never speak, take everything, you are not benefiting yourself. You see, you are suffering. I am proud of loud women. I'm proud of women that express exactly how they feel. But I also acknowledge that some other women have been raised to be exactly that. To be quiet, to not have their voices be heard, to follow the whims of men. There's a lot of unlearning to relearn. So I would encourage everybody to actually do an exploration of pre-colonial Nigeria. I do not say pre-colonial Nigeria entirely non-patriarchal, but gender roles or gender norms were not as distinct as they are today. Women were a huge part of trade and commerce. So nobody was telling a woman to sit back at home and raise children. No, they were in the markets. They were raising children. They were doing the both simultaneously.
At the same time.
And they had a lot of support from their communities. So we must explore pre-colonial history together. What I have explored pre-colonial Yoruba Empire. And women were priestesses. They were also kings. We had a female Oni. We had a female Alafin. They were regents before we had colonialism come to us. The dangers of colonialism are that we lose ourselves. We lose our style of culture, our language. Unfortunately, not a lot of people can speak in their local dialect. We lose our sense of belonging, who you truly are. You live in Lagos all your life. You think you're a Lagosian. You are not. You come from, you have a root away from Lagos. And that root is very significant in how you carry yourselves. The more I learned, because I am from ancient Wu kingdom is non-existent now. In fact, kingdom was destroyed. Early on, it was one of the kingdoms. But I'm proud of that identity.
Yeah.
My people were called very stubborn.
What part of Nigeria, modern day Nigeria?
Owu was in, it was west of current day Ife.
Oh,
Ile
okay.
Ife. We regarded as stubborn women, very proud. We were proud. We were known as warriors. There was a siege laid on the kingdom for 6 years before it was taken down. So we are talking about wars, and we are talking of weapons and war wisdom that was so good that 6 years was what it took to take down an entire city. So yes, we must recognize where we come from, who we are, away from this identity we now have.
Yeah. Yes. And this thing, I think it's like a plague on most African countries now. We're trying to become more Western than African. So we don't identify ourselves as more African than we identify ourselves, as more Western than African. So there's sometimes we tend to for instance, I would not lie. I don't know how to speak my native language. Yes, but because I was raised that way, I was raised I wasn't raised to speak pidgin. Once you speak pidgin in my father's house, what are you speaking to? What are you saying?
I recognize that not a lot of us even know where we come from.
Yes.
We have an entire lifetime to learn. We have an entire lifetime to unlearn what we've learned and take up new identities. We have the rest of our lives. The damage done by colonialism cannot be undone in a day.
That's
the damage done by, and the fact that a lot of reason why a lot of people discard the African identity for more Western ones, because we do not think the African identity is something of value. So for instance, people say, I want to name my child a certain way so that people don't know that's African. I know that collectively Africa is rising. And this is an identity we'll continue to be proud of. It doesn't look like much now, but as much as we commit to nation building, as much as we commit to unlearning negative things, learning your language at whatever age is perfect for you. I have been told that I speak Yoruba a lot. So I just default greet people in Yoruba, and then I have to revert. I'm like, sorry, good afternoon. Why do we do that? Because it's important for me to speak the language of my people. It is important for me to be able to communicate and pass the same down to generations after me. It's important for me to take up the identity that I originally am. Africa is not synonymous to was synonymous to famine, to a lack of education, poverty. Yes, that had been what we used to be. And that did not happen for no cause. That was systematic. The impoverishment, sorry.
Don't worry, English is not our mother tongue.
Yes, the impoverishment of Africa has been intentional, but we must come out of that. We must embrace new identities. We must understand the African identity is something to be proud of. And we must take up new things.
But we know that when most leaders, female leaders, go to the global stage, it's more or less like the apex point.
Yeah.
Yes. So they are like, I have arrived, though. That kind of aura and things like that. So how do we stop placing global leadership on that pedestal, that level where it seems so far-reaching, so different, and so distant from local impact and local advocacy?
Thank you very much. I would say that I have been a victim of I have arrived, though. When I got my first speaking gig, I said, I realized I spoke and I told a lot of sub-stories about Africa. I said, you have to know that there's child marriage. And I remember now, I sat down some years ago. I was fortunate to sit down with the owner of Mass, the chocolate industry. And I remember I was speaking about how we can do this. I feel like to deprioritize global platforms, we must ensure there are more local platforms for us to speak. We cannot look to an invitation by the UN for you to say what you do.
Yes.
At every opportunity locally, ensure that you are vocal about what you do. Ensure that everybody in the room leaves knowing that this is what this person does, this is the course they go for. We do not realize how much networking can happen between us, how much collaboration we can make happen, even in our small levels, as we call it. So I would say that the global platform is not your apex point, never, because you can actually feel like there's a down, you come from that high. So you attend the first, second, third one, you don't hear anything for months.
Yes.
Do you stop working? You don't.
That's why a lot of women get discouraged and be like, oh, leaders get discouraged.
Nobody knows what I'm doing again.
I'm not being recognized.
So you continue to do what you do, and we must create within ourselves and for ourselves local platforms for women to speak on what they do, to express what they do. And I feel like when you eventually get this platform, or when you are on these global platforms, curate your stories. True to God's word, everybody wants to hear that Africa is a doomed place. It sells better to tell about the story of the girl that it sells better. But you do not seek them to just use you as a point of...
It's a sub-story.
A sub-story. And I feel like for supremacists, they use those stories as anchor points.
Yes.
To denigrate, to dehumanize Africans living in Africa. You must tell stories that ask for collaboration. I do this. You can also be a part of this.
And this is how we are making things better.
This is how we make things happen.
Yes.
You can be, if you do a part of it, it helps your organization. It helps. We do not plead. We do not beg. We collaborate. And we collaborate from a place of strength.
Yes.
None of us is weak. None of us is seeking their funding. True to God's word, we do not have a lot of funding locally.
Yeah.
But we also have Nigerians doing the best we can with little or no funding. Every year, Ireti Hub distributes school items. I have never told more than 3 of my friends for this. So we do not put help us, so we want to do this year. We don't do that. But we do need it.
Yeah. And that's the thing that a lot of the West bank on. Africa comes to beg us
for things.
Yes.
I don't want to say I was grateful for the end of USAID. But it helped us.
USAID, yeah.
It helped us. Right now it destabilized things because people did not have time to plan, to re-strategize. But then we begin to question our governments.
Yeah.
Okay, there are no provisions for instance, medications for HIV and AIDS patients. You are not going to let them die. You have to create a line of budget for this to happen.
Exactly.
We put better responsibilities on our government when fundings are actually missing. We have a more responsive government when they do not have extensive external support.
Yeah.
Because if our government can afford a 160-man motorcade, it is the truth.
Yeah.
How much is an hospital? One of those cars in that motorcade is 100 million. How much is funding the HIV and AIDS section of an hospital? How much is funding the children's and prenatal wards of hospitals? How much is increasing the salaries of our healthcare workers so that they can stay here? Otherwise, we have all of them go.
Everyone has jackpot.
I'm very grateful, and I would like to mention I'm very grateful for everyone that continues to stay here.
Yeah.
To do the good. It's not a thankless job to remain in Nigeria. It is. But I'm grateful for the people whose purpose lets them stay here, who know that yes, they can't be an unknown engineer in any other part of the world, but they stay here, they build schools, they refurbish schools, they do the best they can, they do the education they can. I'm grateful for everyone that remains. And I know that our remaining is not in vain. There has to be an end at the end of it. There has to be a light at the end of this tunnel. It can't end like this for us. Yeah. I know it can't. It cannot be the end.
Okay, so but we can't end this series by thinking that global leadership for women is a competition with local leadership, right? So how do we balance both of them? How do we say that, okay, we are on the same level? One is not superior to the other. We don't view one as having a superior stance to the other in Nigeria here as women leaders.
So I feel like as women leaders, if you're doing your work locally and you stay local and you never get an invitation, you never get funding, you are still the very best you can be. I had mentioned that we must stop seeking validation for our work. People might not even validate you locally. Talk more of globally.
That's true.
People might think you're having an absolute waste of time. But if you do what you do, continue to do it, persevere at it. It can be thankless, but we know that we are transforming the lives of others. And it might not have an immediate recognition in the time now, but it eventually has something that heals our soul. Every time we go out, we speak to young people, we prevent a young person from making a mistake. It heals you personally. It heals me. I have to speak personally. It helps me see that, you know what, I could do this to someone. I could influence the life of another. So I feel like my advice is that there's no pedestal for local or global leadership. Put all of that down. If you do get a global platform, perfect. If you stay local, perfect. But continue to do your work. Otherwise, you might get distracted from what your original purpose is. It'll be like the case of someone that was sent on a journey and somehow got invited to a party and forgot where their final destination was. So there's no pedestal. Nothing is higher than the other. We must stop the glorification of the West and the East or whatever. Africa is as much of the world as the rest of the world is the world. if that is correct in any way, Africa is much. The audience you have here is enough.
Yeah.
You are enough in yourself. So whether or not you do get external validation for it, I want you to internally validate yourself too. You're doing the best you can. You're helping lives as best as you can. You're changing the narrative of this country. You're changing the narrative of someone else. And you would definitely I hope you find fulfillment in your journey. That's a wish, that you find some fulfillment, that you find something that you're passionate about, you stay at it.
No matter what.
I hope you do. Whether you found it, whether you work in a system that does it, you're perfect. Nigerian women, though,
yes,
we achieve.
And
I'm glad for that.
Yes, actually. Thank you very much, Ayomide,
Thank you for having me.
Enlightening session. It was truly inspiring. I'm still coming up in my role as a founder and also an activist, and I hope that I don't get discouraged along the way, because there's certain things that when it doesn't pan out, it just brings you down. And hearing you speak right now, just actually I feel so lighthearted, because I have a huge campaign coming up and then I'm anxious about it, but I feel a lot better hearing you speak. And I know that Nigerian women, there's hope for Nigerian women. We are going places.
Definitely.
In fact, we're already on the path.
Yes.
We are like trying to enter our plane now, so I can just zoom off. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I hope that people that watch today's session know that nobody is actually superhuman. I struggle with anxiety. I do struggle with anxiety on a lot of places. The uncertainty can be too much for me. I like knowing.
Yeah.
But not everything is cast in stone. You do not know. So that's not superhuman anywhere. We are doing the best we can in our mortal bodies. So I hope, even if you do feel anxious, you also build it support. You have a team of a support team beside you. People you could speak to if you feel anxious. People you could speak to if you feel discouraged. There's really nothing like having a support system. It could be your friends, it could be family, it could be other founders in similar work fields as you are. But ensure you are speaking to someone. There is no independent hero. Have an Avengers level. Yes. There's no Superman here.
Yeah.
Have an Avengers level so that you are never alone, really. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's what she said.